On this episode of It's a Funny Life podcast, I'll be joined by one of our football coaches for Booterbucks Inclusion FC, Craig Callaghan. Hello, Craig.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Getting there, pal. Doing all right.
Sick, that's buzz. Been busy lately? Doing anything?
I have, mate. I'm just in work at the moment. Just doing a few bits and pieces tomorrow morning, but yeah, just can't wait till the footy returns, mate. More than anything else.
Yeah, no, I can't wait for it to return. Being bored off my head.
I can imagine, mate. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right, by the way? Yeah, is that fine?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Brilliant.
So I'm okay, pal.
Right, you ready to get started?
Yeah, so how's it going to work? Just sort of an interview type of thing?
Yeah, just ask you questions and about you and personal stuff and stuff like that.
Sounds good, mate. All right, I'm ready whenever.
Go on. So we'll start off talking about when you were young, like a child. How was your upbringing and your childhood?
It was good, mate. I'm very, very lucky to have two brilliant parents who sort of instill the right morals in me and led me through life to become hopefully what other people think is a nice young man and someone who gives back to society. But yeah, I had a really happy childhood. Obviously, football's always been a massive part of my life, and I started playing football from I think it was maybe 6 or 7 years of age. So as soon as I was in that, I always had a pathway through something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a very happy childhood, mate.
Yeah, red or a blue?
I'm a red.
Good
Couldn't
answer.
imagine being anything else.
Good answer. Right answer as well. So what schools did you go to, like primary and secondary?
So my primary school was a school called Holy Rosary. It's changed quite a bit since I've been there. There was 2 sites. It's now on one site. There's a juniors and a seniors together. But I went to Holy Rosary. We had a cracking football team with a
you in it?
Was I in the football team?
Yeah.
Of course I was, mate. Yeah. Yeah. No, we had a cracking school team. So that was Holy Rosary. Obviously, I stayed there until I was in year 6. Now went to year 7, and my senior school was Maricourt up in McGull.
McGull, yeah.
Yeah.
Few of my mates go there.
Well, when I went, we had a cracking football team, and we won some competitions, others we fell out of, and then I think the biggest game we played in was in year 9. We ended up, I think we got to the Echo Cup final, which was a boss experience for, I think, what were I in year 9? 14, 13?
14, 13, yeah.
Boss experience to play at a Premier League ground so early in your life, and we ended up losing. I think we lost 2-0 or 3-0. But what an experience that was, playing footy at Everton, and
it
was fantastic. It was fantastic, man. Absolutely loved it. But yeah, went to Maricourt. Met most of my mates who I'm still mates with now through in senior school. So again, very, very happy experience for me on in primary school and senior school.
Did you grow up around Maricourt, like around that McGull area?
No, I'm from Zachary or Aintree. I'm on the border between the two, and I quite often call it Aintree. A mixture of the two. But no, I think the primary school I went to, it was a feeder school for Maricourt. So it was just a natural progression, really, to go straight to Maricourt. And it was a good decision because most of my mates in Holy Rosary were going there as well. So not too much change for me when I got into senior school.
So yeah, most people from your year went from your primary to Maricourt.
Yeah, most of them did, yeah. And also, because I always played football and because I was always around different lads, a lot of the lads that I played football against in different teams, they went there as well. So it was never, senior school was quite a happy place, as I said before, because I knew an awful lot of the people in my year going in, and I knew a few people in the year above and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it was just a natural choice, really, to go straight to Maricourt.
Yeah, and you said you played on Goodson as well. That must have been probably an amazing experience.
Do you know what? I can't remember much of it because it was the first time I'd ever played at a professional football club's ground, and I remember consciously thinking, right, I'm going to try and take it all in. But once you're on the pitch and once you're playing for 90 minutes, it was scary because you're looking around and you're out of your comfort zone and you see all these, all the stands and all the people in the stands. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't full. There was maybe a few hundred people there, which is still nice to play in front of. But it was very intimidating, and I don't remember much of it. I remember in the first minute or the first 5 minutes, I got the ball at left back. So I've always been a defender. I've always played left back or centre half. And I remember getting the ball at left back, and I remember thinking, just get your first pass right, just play yourself into the game. Just make sure you hit feet. And I spotted me left winger, a mate of mine called Luke, and he made a run down the left wing, and I went to play the ball to him, and I've miscued it completely. It's gone straight into the middle of the park. And luckily enough, it's gone to one of our men, and it turns out it's the worst pass I've ever played, but it's also turned out to be the best pass I've ever played. Because it went straight. It never went to the man I wanted it to go to. It went straight to me mate AJ, and he took the ball and he drove forward. And I remember the crowd going. I remember the crowd like not clapping, but there was sort of a feeling where I remember someone saying at touchline, "That was a great pass, that," and I never meant it. It was a complete fluke, but it was that little thing that got me confidence in the first 5 minutes, because I remember thinking, right, okay, at least someone thinks I'm playing well.
Yeah. How long were the minutes in the match?
You know what? I think it must have been either 80 minutes or 90 minutes, because it went on forever. It seemed to go on forever, but it must have been at least 80 minutes, if not 90.
Like a full match, even though you were in school.
Yeah, well, it's a lot different now. So
yeah,
I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but I do a little bit of coaching now, and the teams that I coach, or I have coached previously, they don't play the same way that I used to play in terms of the format. So I think when I went into year 7, you went straight into 11-a-side. There was no 9-a-side. There was no 8-a-side. It was straight from. So there was 9-a-side. There was 9-a-side in year 6, but you went 7-a-side, 9-a-side, straight to 11-a-side, and you went a lot earlier into 11-a-side than you did anything else. So it was. I'm sure at the time, because of that, I think because it was 11-a-side, you might have just gone straight to 90 minutes. But I might be wrong on that. It might have been a little bit less.
And that's like a proper full-on profession. Was it a full pitch that you played on? The full pitch?
Yeah, full pitch, full. Do you know, there's a funny thing about Goodison. So, as I said before, I'm a left back. And when you look across the pitch, so if I was left back and I was looking at the other left back on the other side for the other team, you can't actually see the feet, because there's like a really, really small hill on Goodison. So if I went to play a ball across the pitch, I might not be able to see, depending on where you are, where the ball actually ends up, because there's a little bit of a hill. It's bizarre, to be honest, but yeah, it was a full pitch, and it was boss experience at the time.
Must have been. Yeah, it's defo changed now, because I played on Goodison once.
Oh, did you? Who did
Yeah,
you play there with?
I used to play for Everton Community.
Right, okay.
And I played on Goodison about. I must have been about 6 or 7, and.
Right, okay. You're starting early then?
Yeah, I started. Yeah, that was my first team, Everton Community, when I was about 5 or 6. I think that's when I started. That's when I started playing.
Not a bad way to start, is it?
Not really, no.
Playing straight off the bat for Everton.
Exactly. So did you do any other sports in school? Did you enjoy any other sports when you were in like childhood?
Yeah, I think the friend group that I was in, and that I'm still in now, I'm very lucky to have the same friends in primary school all the way through to senior school. I'm 25 now, still have the same friends. But we've always been quite sporty, and we've always tried new things. So, I mean, cricket was always one. I'm sure you played rounders in primary school. And
oh yeah, we still do it now.
Oh, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we used to play rounders, cricket, tennis, the lot. But football was definitely the main passion. Definitely. I mean, you just couldn't. As I say, I'm still mates with the lads I'm mates with now that I was in school with, and all we talk about is football. Everything, our whole lives revolve around football, whether it's Liverpool winning or Everton winning. Sorry, it was always football. But yeah, tennis and probably cricket were the two biggest ones. I think that the more summer sports, you play them in the sun a little bit. So during the summer holidays, we were always out doing different things.
Yeah, we always used to have, when we were in primary, we always used to have like tennis and cricket clubs, like after school clubs.
Yeah, and it probably hasn't changed too much, to be fair, because they're quite British sports, aren't they? And you don't really see them in the likes of America or on American films, but there's quite a British sport, and I think it's instilled in our education system that those are the sports that we play.
Yeah. Did you play for any other footy teams?
Well,
when you were a kid?
I played for loads, mate. I played for loads. I think we first started. So where I'm from in Fazackley, there's a park called Adlam Park, and there was a club that ran out of there called Barlow's. So I think I played for Barlow's from when I can first remember playing football, whether it was 6, 7 years of age, all the way up until maybe I don't know, under 11. And then my dad, I know that you know my dad, but for those obviously who are listening, Dad's John Callaghan, does a little bit for Beetle, doesn't just do a little bit, does a lot for Beetle Bucks.
Yeah,
but you know, my dad always ran the football teams out, whether it was Barlow's or when we came away from Barlow's, it was Belvedere or Elmcroft Celtic. You know, there was an awful lot of teams, but I'd say my first real club was when I was about 12, I think it was. I got asked to go and play for Chester. In Chester at the time. Chester FC. And at the time, I think they were in League Two or the Conference, or they were around it. They weren't a top club, but it was still my first taste of real football. I might have been a little bit younger. I might have been about 10 or 11. And it was my first real taste of proper football. You know, you get your own kit. You have to turn up early to the games. You have to do a proper warm up, and it was a boss experience. It was short lived, but it was an amazing experience. And then after that, went round the likes of, had a few trials at Everton and Liverpool, but nothing really ever came of it. But it was just, I think, all at that age, it was just all about enjoying my football with my mates and trying to be as successful as possible. But the main emphasis being on enjoying it.
Yeah, you gotta take every opportunity as it comes.
Yeah, definitely, that's it, mate.
So yeah, did you go uni? Did you go university?
No, I never ever went to university. I don't know what I didn't. I'm probably not the best person to talk about school because I was never daft. I was never not smart, but I didn't really. And I'm sure if you speak to anyone around me, I didn't really try that hard in school. I was always bright enough to get away with doing the minimum. And I used to I'd get the odd A, the odd B. I know it's changed now, hasn't it? It's ranked in numbers now, isn't it? Like I think it goes all the way to like an 8 or a 9, doesn't it, for your top mark? But I always got I was always an okay student. But when I got to year 11 and I had to decide what I was going to do next, I decided to go to sixth form. I think I done biology, English, PE. I think it wasn't PE, it was sport and IT, and they're full subjects that they don't really make sense when you put them all together. So I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do in the future. I didn't have any motivation to go to sixth form, but I just went because all my mates were, and I thought, well, if all my mates are doing that, it must be the right idea. And I remember getting into, I think I got into my second year or just before my second year, and I thought, this isn't for me. I thought, I don't think I'm going to go to university. I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. I don't think that it's the right thing for me to do. So what I done was I sat down with my dad and I said, Dad, and my mum as well, to be fair, with my family, and I said, listen, I don't want to go to university. I don't really like going to school at the moment. And it was at the time where at 16, you could either carry on with further education with sixth form and university, or you could go and get a job. I think now it's different. You've got to stay in school till you're 18, don't you?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think I've heard people in my school saying like, do you want to get a job straight after school? Yeah. Not really.
Well, I think now it's changed. I think when you're 18, you have to stay in school till you're 18, whether that's through an apprenticeship or through some sort of education, whether it's sixth form or a college. But at the time when I was in school, you could leave at 16. Pardon me. So I left and I went to work for my dad, and I realised that at the time that wasn't the answer either. So I looked at what I really wanted to do and what I enjoyed, and I love football. And you know, I'm sure as we go through the podcast, that's going to be a massive common theme through my life. I'm a massive football fan, and I wasn't too bad at it, and I could coach. So I turned around to my dad and I said, listen, I think I found what I want to do. I'd like to go to America, and I'd like to coach in America and get a job over there. And I was 17 when I came up with that idea, and I never came up with it on my own. I knew a few lads, family friends, who were already out in America. They were a little bit older than me, but they were doing it. And I said to my dad, I said, I don't want to go to university. I don't want to go to secondary education. I want to go and get a job in something that I love doing. So we decided at the age of 17 that I was going to apply to be a football coach in America. When I turned 18, I got the job. I passed my driving test and I flew over to America. And when everyone else went to university, I was living in a place called New Jersey, which is just outside New York.
Yeah. Do you ever regret not going uni, or are you happy with what you're doing now?
I don't know. At the moment, I don't regret it. But who's to say in 2 or 3 years I'll look back and go, you know what, maybe I should have went to university. But at the moment I don't. And the reason why I don't is because I've had an experience that not a lot of people have had. I've had the chance to go and live abroad on my own. I didn't have any friends, any family. I had no one over there. It was a complete and utter gamble, and it worked. And I'm what I gained in life experience and what I gained in experience of the working world and living in another country and experiencing different cultures and eating different foods. For me, that was far more valuable at the time and still is now than going to university and sitting in a classroom all day. I think there's this myth at the moment where if you don't go to university, then you're not going to get a good job or you're not going to be successful. And I just like to bust that myth and say, you know what, go and do. Your younger years are there to go and experiment and to go and figure out what it is that you want to do with your life. So to
Yeah.
anyone listening, if you're not cut out for university, it's not the end of the world. There's always other stuff out there, and I think that's why I don't regret it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I mean, because you've done a lot in coaching, and did you take your coaching badges out in America?
No, I'd done them over here. So when I turned 16, I knew that because I was always obviously within school football and um, I always played football outside. There was always opportunities for coaching, sort of to be a pathway. So when I was 16, I think I maybe it might have been even younger than that. Just as something to do, I went and got me level one, and then once I'd got me level one, there was other things. There's other coaching badges called youth modules. So I got my youth modules, which is mainly focused around coaching kids in sport. So I got them too, and but it was never with a view to coach. It was always just something to have another qualification that was, on my CV. That if I ever got a chance to use them, great. If it didn't, well, I've lost nothing. And it ended up, it was a bit serendipitous to be fair. I just ended up falling into a job or figuring out that I wanted to be a coach. And it just so happened that I already had my coaching badges, so it fit quite well.
Yeah. Did you played? Did you? I think you played for a team called Asheville.
Yeah, I did. I played for them for about half a season. I had some good experiences at Asheville. It was a little bit different. Asheville from over the water, so I think it's Wallasey. I'm not too sure actually, but they're from over the water. So I went there. The reason I went there is I used to play for a team called Old Zabs, which is down in by Egberth, down the south end of Liverpool. And the manager from Old Zabs left, and he went over to manage Asheville. So he rang me one day and he said, "Listen, I know that you play for Old Zabs, but I'm leaving. I'm going to Asheville. Do you want to come with me?" So I said, I had a good relationship with the manager, a guy called John Harkin. Still and funnily enough, he went back to Old Zabs in the end. But I said I had a good manager. I had a good relationship with him. So I said, you know what? Yeah, I'll come with you. And I think he lasted 6 games through no fault of his own. I just think it didn't really fit. He's a great manager, but it just didn't really fit for him. And I ended up staying because I thought it'd be easy for me to follow John again and go back to the club. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick it out and I'm going to try and play football somewhere where I don't have any friends or I don't know anyone and I've got to build my reputation up again. So yeah, I had some good memories at Asheville. We had some good runs in the league, some good runs in the cup. I was only there for maybe a season or a season and a half before I went back to Old Zabs.
Was the main reason that you left because you wanted to, or was it because of the manager?
A bit of both, really. Obviously, I had to work, and it was difficult for me to get to training over the water 2 times a week, and then you're playing on the weekend, and there was an awful lot of travelling, and it just made sense at the time for me to, and no disrespect to Asheville, but at the time it made sense for me to go back to my roots a little bit and go and play for Old Zabs, and Old Zabs were in the County Common, the Premier Division, So the difference in standard, and sorry, Ashville were in the West Cheshire Prem. So the difference in standard wasn't a massive drop. I think it was the equivalent to maybe dropping down a league, but it just made sense at that time with work commitments and everything to go back to old Dabs.
Yeah. Did you play with anyone that was me is professionally playing in the professional leagues now?
Yeah. Played with a few people. So for a big chunk of my playing career and my amateur career, I played at a club called Formby Football Club, which doesn't exist anymore. Unfortunately, we went under. I think he went bankrupt or something happened. I was a kid at the time. I wasn't too interested. I just wanted to play football. But I think when I was 15, my dad took us up to Formby. Took the team that we had at, I think it was Belvedere, up to Formby. We had a fantastic side there. And we had a lad who played for us at Formby called Aaron McGowan, who now plays for, if my memory serves me right, plays for Kilmarnock in the Scottish Premier League. Yeah, so he first left and went to Morecambe, and he was the youngest ever player for Morecambe at the time. I don't know if it's been overtaken now. Youngest ever player at the time to make a first team appearance for Morecambe. He played for Morecambe, he made over 100 appearances in the first team. He went from Morecambe to Hamilton Academicals up into the Scottish Premier League. Played at the Ibrox, played at Celtic's grounds, played against all the top teams. And I think he actually captained them for one game, up for 1 or 2 games. And he was loved at Hamilton. And then he made last summer or last season at least, he made the move over to Kilmarnock. And from what I can tell, he's had quite a successful career up there so far. So we still stay in touch with him from time to time. But yeah, Aaron made it, and then there was another kid who I used to be really good mates with, a kid called Dominic McGivern, who currently plays over in, I want to say Finland or Norway, one of the two, and I can't recall the name of the team he plays for. I'll have to try and find it out for you and get back to you. But he plays professionally over. I think it's Norway. He plays over there, and he plays professionally over there. And he actually used to play for a team called the Nike Academy. I don't know if you ever heard of it, have you?
Nike Academy. It sounds familiar. I'll probably if it comes to my memory, I'll probably.
Yeah. So the Nike Academy, basically what Nike do is they go across England. And I think they go across Europe as well, and they find the most talented amateur players that haven't been signed to a club yet. Now, Dominic used to be signed to Liverpool as a kid, and I think he spent nearly 10 years there and decided to leave and pursue other clubs. So he was playing for Formby at the time, and then he went to the Nike Academy. And what Nike do is they travel all over the world, and you're in this team, and you're in this team for 2 years. I think it's from 16 to 18. And you go and play all the top clubs in the world. So my mate Dominic has played against AC Milan, PSG, Napoli. He's played against Chelsea, Liverpool, the lot. He's played everyone, anyone that you can name. He's played for the Nike Academy. And they actually have a tournament at the end of it, and their team made it to the end of the tournament, and they played Barcelona under 19s at Wembley, and he actually scored the winner at Wembley against Barcelona. So, fantastic story to tell, and he's got some fantastic photographs of it. But what an experience that is. But yeah, Dominic and Aaron, they're the two that have, as I said before, me, Dominic and Aaron, we all went to school together in the same year, so we had a fantastic school team, as you can imagine. And they've gone on to make a living. They've gone on to make a living out of the game, which is fantastic, really.
Well, on that lots of friendship and probably what your other mate with the Nike Academy.
Some good players knocking around. Hopefully we get to see them in the English game before too long, and we get to see them maybe in the Championship or hopefully the Premier League, because they are that good. They really are that good, and I hope to see them there one day. But they're doing well at the moment, so best wishes to them.
Yeah, that'd be mad to think as well. You're just on the telly watching it, and then you just see someone It's like, God,
definitely. I know him. You know what? The first time I seen Aaron, especially playing for Hamilton, he was playing against Chelsea, and I was like, oh, I've stayed over in his house and I've played footy with him, and I know his mum and dad, and I've been to parties with him. It's strange. You're right. It is. It's strange to see, but it's a part of life, isn't it? People do go on to make a living out of the game.
Yeah, it's just if you're good enough. It's just a case of if you're good enough or not.
You know
To be
what?
honest.
It's that, and it's also how much you're willing to sacrifice. You know how much effort you're willing to put in. And to any young players out there, you know you might be the most talented player in your school team or your Saturday team, your Sunday team, but unless you work hard to keep developing your skills, you know you're going to get a shock when you meet other players who've been really working really hard, and then maybe at one point they weren't as good as you, but because of their work ethic and because they work hard, they will eventually overtake you. So yes, they are talented and they're very talented boys, but they work really hard off the pitch in the gym, running, making sure they keep themselves fit, making sure they eat the right things. You know, so there's a lot more that goes into being a professional football player than just being really naturally gifted.
I know, yeah. Just the same with thing, because you have to put in like because most isn't like a professional team. They train like near enough every single day for about 2
Yeah,
hours.
and they'll do different things, you know. But most teams, they do train 4 or 5 times a week, and it might not be as intense as a brutal book session at the weekend, and it might not be five aside all the time, go. It might be tactical, and if Liverpool, for example, are playing Manchester City at the weekend, it might be, well, this is how Manchester City set up their team, so this is how we're going to set up our team. And they might watch film, and they might sort of look at who the penalty takers are, who are going to take the corner kicks, things like that. But yeah, it's a full-time job. I think people think of professional football players where they play on the weekend, they train through the week, and then they do whatever they like. But there's an awful lot of commitment in terms of looking after their bodies, making sure they do the right things, making sure they don't drink beer or eat rubbish food. So there's an awful lot of commitment that goes into it.
I know, like yeah, in the gym, you gotta keep yourself fit
Exactly.
all the time, eat the right things, and I know you'll be healthy then. So, as you said earlier on, you take your coaching badges and you do coaching, and as well as doing the training the books, I believe you coach like another kids
Yeah,
team as
so
well.
I'm involved with 2 teams at the moment. So I'm involved with obviously Beetle Bucks, which you're fully aware of. But then I also look after,
Yeah.
well, we haven't looked after them for a while because of coronavirus, but before all this started, I used to have an under nines team called under the club of River Juniors, who are a fantastic little side. Yeah,
River Junior. Oh yeah, I've seen pictures of them because I think 3 of my mates have played that team
well,
as well.
they're a
Not under
they're
nines,
a
but
massive club, so they've got teams all the way up from maybe not teams, but you can start playing football for them from the age of 3 or 4 in sort of nursery sessions and just an introductory to football, and up until I think they've got an under 15 side, so they've got a wide range of football teams at River Juniors. But I look after the under nines, or I did before coronavirus started anyway.
so as well you train River Juniors
Yeah.
or did before the corona train River Juniors under nines and you train the Bucks. So do you bring the same ideas across both clubs, like same training sessions, or do you have to
You
mix it
try
up a bit?
to obviously that makes it easier for me, but it's also based on the 2 teams. So every team is individual, isn't it? And then obviously inside that you've got players who are individuals. So when I'm looking at setting up a coaching session for either River Juniors or the Bucks, um, I'm looking at what I think we need to work on over the course of the season. Because if let's say for example, Brutal Bucks play and they get beat 5-0, right, and it's 5 goalkeeper mistakes. Well, I'm not going to go in the next session and just work on goalkeeping because that doesn't benefit the rest of the team, does it?
No,
Because if you're a striker
no,
and you've done nothing wrong, but the goalkeeper needs a little bit of help, well then you're not a goalkeeper, you're a striker. So when I sit down at the start of the season, I look at maybe 3 or 4 things that over the course of the season I'm looking to improve within a team. So I might look at Bill Bucks and I might say, well, I think the quality of our passing might need to be we need to improve that over the course of the season. And then I might look at River Juniors and I might say something different. I might say, well, actually, our defending needs to be a little bit better. So you've looked at both teams and you've analysed them for their independent teams. So things do change across sessions depending on what the team needs, the quality of the player, what the players need to hear as well. So there's an awful lot of things that change, but within football, the ideas pretty much stay the same. It's a very simple game, isn't it? You get the ball, you move it on, and you try and put it in the big net. So it's a very simple game,
Exactly.
but I think people like to complicate it sometimes. So yeah, we try and keep the same ideas over. We try and keep the same philosophy over all of the clubs and all the teams that we work with.
Yeah, and that's sometimes
Yeah,
the best
just keep
thing
it
to
simple.
do. Yeah, you don't just put out of the box. So your coaching sessions that you do with us, it's in our team. It's you don't always just do the same thing every single week. Like you might do like one or two things straight on one specific thing, and then you do something else, which is it learns people different types of
Yeah,
in
definitely.
football, like play, which is really really good, and it
Oh,
really
thank you, mate.
benefits people.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think because if I'm coaching, I'm looking at the coaching session I try to look at it from the view of a coach, what I want from the session, what I'd like the kids to do, or what I'd like to get from it in terms of if I'm working on passing, what I'd like at the start of the session for the passing to maybe be a bit rubbish, and at the end of the session, there's you can see some improvement there. That's what I'm after. I'm looking to get something from the session, but you've also got to look at it from the view of a player as well. If I turned around to you, Joseph, and I said, "Listen, for 60 minutes, you're going to stand on that cone and you're going to pass to your mate who's 5 yards away from you." Well, after 5 minutes, that's going to get really, really boring. So
I
I'm
know,
not
and
looking
people.
to go into a session to make it boring because I've no doubt over the course of 60 minutes, if you were passing to your mate who's 5 yards away, you're going to get better and better and better at doing it, aren't you?
You need to get
Exactly.
used to
But
doing other
so
things.
if I just say 60 minutes, stand on a cone and pass to your mate, well, it's going to get boring for the player as well. So I'm looking at a session as a coach and I'm saying, what do the players want to do? And most players, they want to play football. So how can I implement the thing I'm working on into a session where the kids enjoy it or the players enjoy it? So that's one of the main things and that's why I might stick on one topic for a week or two because I haven't got what I wanted out of the session. And then the second I hit it and the second I get it, that's when I move on. And that's when you're saying, I might do something different the next week and the next week. And that's because I've got, as a coach, what I wanted from the session.
What you've got out of the players, what
Exactly,
you want them
exactly.
to do.
Spot on.
Yeah. So a few years, I don't know if it's 3 years ago, like a couple of years ago, you done a charity bike ride for like
Yes, that was
11
it
days.
was last year that, yeah.
Yeah, last year. So what inspired you to actually
Um
do it?
probably probably my uncle. So I'm not so what we did was we cycled from Land's End, which is the furthest southern point of the country, to the most northern point of the country, which is John O'Groats up in Scotland. So it was the length of the country, and it was roughly somewhere between 900 to 1,000 miles. When you asked me about my inspiration, my uncle Chris, who has also come down to Bootle Bucks recently, he's a really keen cyclist. He's been cycling for God knows how many years, and one of his life goals has always been to cycle from Land's End to John O'Groats. And he talked about it for years and years and years, and I'd always sort of listened to him and thought, yeah, I'd give that a go, I wouldn't mind that. And last year he mentioned it, and I said, you know what, Chris, let's do it. Let's just do it. And Chris was like, well, we'll do it. And I said, well, tell you what, I'm going to go and buy a bike. So I think in the space of 8 weeks, I'd gone from not riding a bike at all. I could ride a bike, but I just didn't have one. I bought a bike, trained, and then 8 weeks later, we were down in Land's End getting ready to go with, to be honest, not much preparation. But I think the motivation for it, to answer your question, was just it's been something that Chris wanted to do for a long time, and he's never had anyone to do it with. And I thought that I felt obligated to do it with him. And also, I love a challenge. I love people telling me that you shouldn't be able to do that or you can't do that. I love it because then I love going out and proving people wrong. It's just the way I am, the way our Chris is. So that was the motivating factor for us. People saying, no, you can't do that, or it's too long, or you're not going to make it, or you'll quit before you get to halfway. And it was sort of a grit your teeth moment and go, you know what, we're going to do it anyway. Exactly, and
Gotta be
that was it. We
determined.
were just determined to do it, and nothing was going to stop us.
No. How did you train? Was your training like just like going out on a
Yeah,
bike, just riding
that was
for a
it,
bit?
mate. It
Okay.
was as simple as that. I think, as we said before, I think people overcomplicate things and they think that it's got to be some scientific equation, and it hasn't. Just get on your bike and go. That's all we done. I just got on my bike. I said, today I'm going to do 50 miles, and I'm not going to stop until I do 50 miles. It was that simple.
It's basically just that
Yeah.
simple. Get on your bike, just
Obviously, be
go
safe
on.
and you know, put your helmet on and you stick and take your phone with you so people know where you are. But I used to just go and get lost. I used to go and cycle 25 miles in one direction and cycle 25 miles back, and that was my training. You know, not didn't think about the nutrition side of it. Didn't think about whether my legs were going to be sore or whether I was going to pick up an injury. I just done it. Just went and done it. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you want to do something, go out and do it.
Don't think about the
Yeah.
consequences. Just think about
Just go and do it. You
what.
know, I mean, if it's something like riding a bike, the consequences aren't going to be that big. It's, if anything, it's healthy for you.
What
Your muscles might be a bit sore, you know, but just go and do it. Just go and do it.
what's the worst? Scrape your knee or
Exactly.
something
You know,
if you're not
and
wearing.
but what's a scraped knee? It's going to heal eventually, isn't it? So
Yeah, it's about 10
exactly.
seconds and it goes away then. So we're back with that was a grueler, an absolute grueler over 11 days
Yeah,
doing
you're
that.
right.
Was it
You're
11
spot on.
days?
It was 11 days. Well, we like to say about 10 and a half because we on the 11th day we're only cycling for half the day. But yeah, it was 11 days, and we gave ourselves. I think we gave ourselves 14 days to do it or 15 days to do it because we thought there'd be some days where you feel amazing and you can cycle 120 miles, and then there'll be other days where you get up in the morning and your body just feels, pardon me, sorry, your body just feels destroyed. So and you can only cycle 50 miles. So we gave ourselves an extra few days, for, you know, to take into account those days where your body didn't feel so good. But you'd be surprised at, you know, what you can do for each other. So when Chris was having his bad days, I'd try and motivate him, and when I was having my bad days, Chris would try and motivate me. And you ended up, and that's how we done it in 11 days, because we just ended up pushing each other and pushing each other and pushing each other until we got there and we were like, well, we've done that in 11 days. That was quick.
And so yeah, it was unbelievable
Oh,
effort
thank
by
you very
yourself
much,
and
mate.
your
I
uncle
appreciate that.
Chris, which because I mean I don't use can cycle like 900, 1,000 miles. I couldn't even cycle. I couldn't even
I don't
cycle
know,
10
when you
miles
say that,
probably.
you might cycle 10 miles at first, and then the next day you might cycle 12 miles, and then the next day you might cycle 15 miles. So it's just all about progress.
Just try.
Just keep chipping away at it. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, but they were laying bricks every single day. And that's what I like to think of it like. You know, you're not going to get, you know, to your end goal unless you start somewhere. You've just got the hardest part is starting, isn't it? So you've just got to start. So you might
Yeah,
say,
exactly.
can only ride 10 miles. So what? Who's putting a downer on that? It's 10
Before
miles. You've still done it. It's hard. There's loads of people who can sit there and go, oh, I can do that, and they never will. But the fact that you're getting out there and doing 10 miles is better than anything that anyone can tell you.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been on long bike rides like with me dad and that, but never really thought about doing something
Yeah,
that big like
I mean,
that
it
long.
is a crazy idea, to be fair, and I don't think I'll be doing it anytime soon. But I'd recommend to anyone listening, if there's something that you really want to do, just go and do it. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
Don't
it.
don't hold back on it. So, can you tell us a bit about like your journey and the challenges you
Yeah,
faced along
definitely.
the way?
So the first day is obviously it's quite easy because you're motivated, you're excited, you know, it's your first day on the bike, you're nice and fresh. So we got through that. Second day was similar. Third day, you start as you come up through the likes of Dorset and I can't think of the other counties. It's quite embarrassing, I should really know. But as you come up through the south of England, anyway, people think that in Scotland it's very mountainous, and they think that in the south of England it's quite flat, but it's the complete opposite way because the Scots had the good sense to go round the mountains, whereas for some reason the British just went up and over the mountains. So you can imagine we're cycling through the south of England, and every second road is a massive hill, and it's great going up the hill. Sorry, it's great going down the hill, but then once you've gone down a hill, you've got to go back up, haven't you? Oh, and that was it was physically tough, but it was more mentally tough than anything else, because the amount of times where you've just battled a massive hill, you've got to the top of it, you feel amazing, you sweat, your bike's heavy because it's loaded full of all your gear. You go down this big hill, and then when you get to the bottom, there's just another massive hill to sort of to look at and to cycle up, and you're thinking, can I do that again? And daily you're doing that maybe 20, 30 times, hill after hill after hill. So physically it's tough, but mentally I'd say it's tougher, because to keep yourself motivated and to keep yourself going up and down those hills, that was one of the toughest parts for us. And obviously your body's still getting, on those first 4 days they were the toughest days, because your body's still getting used to being on a bike every day. The majority of people, we just walk around on 2 legs all day, or they sit at the desks in work, or they sit at the desks in school. The legs aren't constantly moving. So, and that's the same for us. Chris is an accountant, and I luckily enough I work with my dad now, and for the majority of the day we're sitting at a desk, or we're doing things that aren't keeping us active, and then all of a sudden we've got to go from that to cycling for 10, 12 hours a day. And your body is just breaking down and breaking down and breaking down. So those first 4 days, they were really, really, really tough, I'd say.
No, that's max. I would have thought maybe the last 4 days are tough because your body's not. I thought they would have been the toughest.
That's what we thought.
But
your body then gets used to it. So your body gets used to being battered and abused, and your muscles get used to being used all of the time. So if anything, I know this sounds daft and it sounds a little counterintuitive, but as you go forward and as you do more miles, your body just adapts and it gets used to it. So it gets easier.
Yeah. And I just thought me, because I've never done that like that. I would have just probably thought the first 4 days would be like a walk in the park, just riding, and then as soon as your body just goes starts it, and it would be you feel
well,
like you just could not do it anymore.
Because I thought that as well, but it's the other way around. Well, at least it was the other way around for us.
Yeah, so while you were out there, middle of the country, did any your mum or dad come and see you out there?
What? For the first, when we started, it was just me and our Chris. We got dropped off at Land's End, and it was just me and our Chris. So we done it for charity as well. We raised some money for little books for new kits and new balls and everything, and we ended up raising over £4,000 in the end, which was massive, and it was way more than we thought we'd ever raise. So it was just me and our Chris, but because we had constant donations and constant sort of phone calls and messages and emails saying good luck from the Little Books community and from my parents and my sister and family and friends, and because we had that, it never felt like we were on our own. It always felt like there was someone there with us. And then once we got to Scotland, we were lucky enough that my dad got a van, and for the Scottish leg, for the last few hundred miles, my dad was actually with us, providing us a bit of support. But before that, for the whole of England, it was just me and our Chris, and it was fantastic, because you felt like you were doing it on your own, and you were really doing something that I don't know that not many other people would do without support. But then when we got to Scotland, it was quite evident that we did need that support eventually, and the difference that my dad made coming up was massive, because what he'd do is, let's say for example, if my dad wasn't there and we needed a drink, we'd have to go and stop at a shop, and we'd have to lock the bikes up, and that'd take time off your day. Whereas when my dad was there, we could just turn around to him and say, listen, Dad, we're really thirsty, can you run ahead, get us a bottle of Lucozade or a bottle of water or whatever, and as we're cycling he can just hand it to us and we don't have to stop. So that was massive. That's probably why we done it in 11 days. In all fairness.
Yeah, and respect. Yeah, because your dad was there as
Definitely.
well, so that obviously helps a lot as well. So you said you raised £4,000 for Bootle Books. Did you raise if it just for Bootle Books,
Yeah.
or was it
So
for anyone else in particular as well?
I think it was just over £4,000. I'd have to go and check, but I think that was near enough the number. So we done it for what we said. Well, we were gonna do it for Bootle Books inclusion, and 50% of the donations were going to go to Bootle Books, and then the other 50% were going to go to Sefton Community Pantry, which is it's not a food bank, because I don't think they can be called a food bank, but it's exactly what it says in the tin. It's basically a community initiative to provide vulnerable families, and families in need with essentially whatever they need, whether it's, especially during lockdown, maybe you've got little kids and maybe like colouring packs and colouring books or little puzzles or games, or even if families are, obviously during COVID, we're all aware of how hard it struck families, and especially vulnerable families. And if you've lost your job during COVID and you can't afford to pay for food or pay the lecky in the house or the heating, Sefton Community Pantry could help you with that. So, but obviously they're helping a lot more people once coronavirus hit. So their funds were slowly dropping down. So we thought it would be the right idea, although we wanted to do this anyway. And the bike ride never started off as a charity bike ride. It was just something that we've always wanted to do. It very quickly turned into something that meant a lot more than just me and Chris completing it. It turned into helping Bootle Books and Sefton Community Pantry and trying to push some money to some really positive initiatives.
Yeah, and I know the challenges that like pantries and food banks go through, because I had North Liverpool Food Bank on as just my recent podcast, so I know just that they've suffered not just over Corona, well, mostly over Corona because of the money and all the food that they have to go and buy it themselves, where they usually
and it's a tough one as well, isn't it, over Corona, because where usually you just drop it off and they'd be grateful for it. Now you've got to obviously let the food quarantine for 2 weeks, and you've got to make sure it's sanitized. There's just extra steps in there that make it a little bit harder for the likes of, the Trust food banks and, and for the community pantries. It just, everything's being made a little bit more difficult, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So what job do you have? Like, what are you currently working as now?
I'm not too sure. So we're very lucky that we have a family business based around bath, body, and lifestyle products and aromatherapy products. So the likes of shower gels and bath bombs, body butters. We're a manufacturer of this. So our company is called Callaghan. And so very lucky that I'm in a family business at the moment.
Your dad
Yeah.
Does your dad own that? Your dad owns that business, doesn't he?
It's his baby. I think he's had it for about, I don't know, maybe it's coming up on 20 years now, maybe a little bit less than 20 years. But yeah, we've always had this family business, and I thought I've done different jobs in the past. I've worked with kids with disabilities. I've worked in schools, and I just thought I think it was late last year that it was the time to transition over and the time to come into the family business once again. I have worked here previously in the past, but only for short stints. So I thought, 25 now, getting old, grey in my beard. It's time to come back into the family business.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any more events lined up in the future, like any more charity
funny you asked that.
runs or bike rides
We've
or
got
anything?
a few planned, a few that I've got to keep under my hat, but there's one that I'm looking forward to doing, where, because I think the thing with charity sort of bike rides or marathons and things like that, there's an awful lot of people who do them. So you might, and a marathon is quite common, or a half marathon is quite common. So when I look at doing things for charity, or when I look at things that are going to challenge me, I look at things that no one else will do. So there's a group of guys we know, and a group of ladies we know from Swansea, who have essentially what I like to call a sister club to Bootle Books inclusion, called Margam Stags.
Oh,
I think you've been down there, haven't you, to Margam Stags
yeah.
before? for the training session?
Yeah, we went. Our
Yeah.
Buxty, we went down there
It's an
and
away day
played
for you,
footy
that,
with
isn't it? So
the.
it's a fair away day. It's massive. It's miles away.
Yeah, because you think Wales is not that far away from
Exactly, yeah.
Liverpool, but Swansea's
On the
like
south
the other
coast of
side
Wales,
of it.
isn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, it's
Well,
mad. It was
the
quite a
lad
long
from
journey
the
as
lad
well.
from Margam Stag got in touch and said, "Listen, we've got a plan. They want to build a whole new sports hall and a sports arena down there. And like I've just said, they don't want to just run a marathon because everyone does a marathon. So what they've proposed is that they want to run from Liverpool to Swansea, which I think is 170 miles. Now that's an awful long way. So as I said to them, I said for my next challenge, I'd like to jump on with you and do that. So it looks like sometime this summer, obviously, when the restrictions are lifted, we're going to try and run 170 miles over 48 hours from Liverpool to Swansea to raise as much money as possible for the new sports hall or sports arena for Margam Stags down in Swansea. So that's going to be the next one.
Right. So I've got no more questions for. Thanks for taking time out of your day, because I know you're probably
Not
quite
a problem,
busy,
mate. It's an
and to
absolute
come and
pleasure.
speak to me on my podcast.
Don't worry about it, pal.
Thank you very much. So hopefully I see you soon after
Definitely.
the first
Hopefully
boot up
when it all
session, or
opens up
whenever you
pretty
come back.
shortly, which is it's only around the corner, isn't it? But we'll all be okay.
Yeah, John planning
That's
to
massive.
open
Only
it up
around the
by the
corner. We
3rd of
can't wait for
April.
it to come back. Not a problem,
I
mate.
can't, to be
Pleasure.
honest. So thanks for coming on
All
today,
right, I'll
Craig.
speak to you soon, Joseph.
Thank you very much.
Bye, mate.